She's April.
And she's Molly.
And we are
the Book Besties.
And Nikki Payne. I have not had a book boyfriend like Bear in a while, ma'am.
Even if you're researching, would this penis fit in this vagina? Because let me tell you,
unrealistic penises for the life of me. Like, forever.
But somebody's a prostitute.
The group chat is unsupervised. Whoop whoop!
To just pull out your phone and do it for the likes.
I'm actually here for this. I'm actually very here for this. I wish I had popcorn.
This is fantasy for a reason, fuckers.
With special guest Nikki Payne!
Welcome back, lady!
I'm so excited to be here.
Oh, we've missed you. I got to see you once since we've last seen each other, but not enough, obviously, even though we're like practically neighbors. It's fine, whatever. But you've been a little busy, kind of writing a new novel.
A little bit.
You've
just,
been everywhere. It's crazy.
It's just everywhere.
Was it Good Morning America that you did?
Yes!
Oh, maybe someone mentioned my book on Good Morning America. Maybe I touched the hem of someone's garment who had also been on Good Morning America.
Girl, you're there.
Perhaps I brushed against someone.
Good Morning America wafted their breath on me.
Yes.
Oh man, I am so happy to have you back because we met you for the first time at Annapolis Book Festival, which we will be back again this year.
So excited.
Yeah, it's a great con. It's a great book con. If you're local, definitely go.
Oh, yeah.
I'm coming up from Virginia. I live in coastal Virginia, and it's not even that far from me, and it's a great chance to meet some authors. It's pretty low-key, I think.
Yeah, and they have a book sale. They have events for the kids. They have
face painting. It supports the school where it's held.
It's a really nice event.
But when we met you... So we got to pick the authors that we wanted to interview for Annapolis Book Festival. And we did a little bit of judging books by covers.
That's what we do.
If a cover looked appealing to us, then we went and read author's bio. Mm-hmm. And I saw this cover, which is your first book, Pride and Protest, and I went, I need to meet this person.
She is an icon.
He's an icon.
Right.
We're not going to lie. When we both came together with lists, you were the only name. You were on both of them. We had 3 names that were on both of ours, and you were the only one that was top on both of our lists.
Top.
We both knew. I knew you were a local art author, so I was like, oh my God, this would be great to promote a local author. Mm-hmm. But I was like, but she's doing something that BIPOC authors aren't doing a lot of, and it's going to be great, and it's just all the words.
Well,
I had all the words. But don't I have all the words, though?
In general, I'm a children's librarian, and in general, a big part of my job is advocating for more diversity in kids' books.
Yeah.
And I remember when I was teaching still, because I used to be a teacher, my boss was retiring, my department head. She's an African-American woman. And she was retiring, and we all bought her books as like, this was her book party. Like, you now have all this time to read whatever you want. And one of my coworkers bought her romance novels, and I'm talking like bodice rippers, like Fabio's on the cover.
Yes.
And she made a comment that she couldn't find any ones that had Black people on the cover. And her comment was, I guess Black people don't love each other, which was like, obviously she was, being sarcastic. Right. But I was like, the fact is, and this is one thing we talked to you about in Annapolis, the fact is that there aren't a lot of Black women leading rom-coms because, and you can explain it so much better because you have this background, but that's not what's trending on like dating apps, right?
Yeah. I mean, there's like a whole background to like what happens in the publishing industry and who gets, those types of cutesy covers and what that looks like. It is old and ancient and a tale as old as time, and it rhymes with ructual racism. You know what I mean? And so like there are all of these kind of reasons why those types of books are like oftentimes not seen, but also like those types of genres where a lot of Black women aren't represented. I think it's so compelling to like actually like pull off the layers and think through some of those things. Like who is deserving of love? Like who gets their happy ending, right?
And they're not the sassy best friend.
Yeah.
They are the central character.
The most desired.
Which is actually a complaint that Molly and I, a similar complaint that Molly and I had with the previous book that we read, actually the one we read last week. The best friend was a gay man, because of course we need a sassy gay man to be the best friend.
Because
like,
that is all millennial stories is, right? It's the set structure. White woman, sad, lonely, ugly, gay best friend, bad at job. That's the triangle right now of millennial romance.
Right.
And it's just
and it's not cool. But the other thing that I really liked about you before we even met you about your work was that you're taking classic literature, which I'm an English teacher and I have not read a lot of classics because I don't like them.
Yeah.
I understand that the hand flex and Pride and Prejudice is so
all I'm saying is you can't give me shit over not being a massive fan of like not being super obsessed with To Kill a Mockingbird when you're like, Pride and Protest is fine. Like, you cannot...
No, not Pride and Protest. Pride and Prejudice was fine.
Right. That's what I'm saying. But you get what I'm saying, right? Yeah. On one hand, you give me shit for not loving your classic, but when other people's classics come up, you're like, eh.
Listen, Molly.
Listen what?
Kill a Mockingbird is not classic literature. It's American literature. And I just can't.
Get into it.
Conversation every time. I know, I love you.
I'm actually here for this. I'm actually very here for this. I wish I had popcorn.
We have this ongoing thing in our episodes where we talk about why I don't like historical fiction.
Yeah.
And my biggest complaint about historical fiction is a lot of it is like the woman walking away, right? So it's the same thing. It's almost always World War II. It's when we
leaving time behind.
Yeah. When we interviewed Anthony Mara at Annapolis Book Festival, he said you can walk into a bookstore and trip over a huge stack of the woman walking away historical fiction. He writes historical fiction, but it's very different. And I was just like, it took me a while, but when we were interviewing Anthony, I made a comment and he's like, I think the reason that you don't like historical fiction is because of how much you love To Kill a Mockingbird. And I think that's the answer.
Wow.
Because To Kill a Mockingbird is technically historical fiction because it takes place in the 40s and was written in the 60s, but she was writing about the civil rights movement. She was writing about what she saw and how it hadn't changed. Yeah. And when I used to teach that book, I taught in the middle of the West Tampa projects, and I'm teaching kids who are still seeing the justice system be inequitable.
Yeah.
And they're relating to something that was written decades ago.
Yeah.
And to me, I will die on that hill. That is that is the pinnacle of books to me. I will die on that hill.
And honestly, if you think about that in that same vein, one of the reasons why Jane Austen continues to appeal to me is not necessarily because of like the characters who are iconic, but when we talk about showing children over time those systems and structures of inequality and how those narratives still fit very neatly into their society, and when we think about Jane Austen and those systems of class and social structure and bringing us into the story of these women. Always her women are in this moment of complete like loss of agency, right?
Yeah.
Where they don't have any options. And yet they always
autonomy,
the economy. Exactly. Yeah. Particularly when it comes to like their financial background. They are at the very bottom of the totem pole, and all of their safety nets are stripped from them. And they still have this rare opportunity to exercise agency. And when you think about it, like Elizabeth Bennet, who was down at the bottom of the totem pole and getting lower, probably because of her sister, right? When Moneybags comes in and says, I'm going to pluck this rose, and bring you a new life. Right? Yeah. If you think about the extreme amount of agency it would take her to say, kick rocks, dummy.
Yeah. Like, bounce.
Bounce.
Oh, yeah.
Bounce. I don't need you, friend.
I'm not
See you later,
about it.
homie.
Right. And so like those themes about when you think about that in 2024
Yeah.
and introducing this to this woman whose back is against the wall and who has very little agency, but the one time that she is the main character, she gets to flex her agency to say, nah, I'm not gonna be able to do it. You know, I feel like there are all of these threads with Jane Austen and economic instability and what our choices are when economic instability is our other option.
And I love reading books through a feminist lens, and you can't read Jane Austen and not get that lens.
No.
Like,
she has absolutely.
There is a very. She was writing women who were fine with being heard and seen, not seen and not heard.
Yeah,
they wanted to be in the room where it happens. I mean,
she wanted to be in the room.
In the room where it happens.
I see what you did there.
I mean, I saw a TikTok about that the other day, actually, totally off topic, but Aaron Burr is female rage. Think about it.
Too.
Think about that. Yeah, because if there's a reason I'm still alive and Hamilton still seems to survive, like, Burr is screaming, it is not fair. He keeps persisting over me. I am working harder. If that is not our feminine life, if there's not a reason I'm still alive and he persists, even though he's not trying, why? Yeah. That is my fight with men in the military, man. Like, I am sitting here working twice as hard as you, and you're getting it.
Absolutely. Minorities as well. Women of color, exactly. They're like, hey, this person's doing the absolute least, right? Yes. And gets to thrive.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. The confidence of the New York white man.
Yes. Do it with the confidence.
That's our mantra.
Right.
Okay, so
we probably should actually talk about.
I'm supposed to be leading this.
Of course.
I'm supposed to be.
So we read Pride and Protest a year ago and met you a year ago.
Yes.
And immediately after I finished this book, I went and pre-ordered your book. This was in April that I did this. And the book came out today, the day that we're going live, not the day we're filming, but today is the day your book comes out.
Yes.
So it was almost a whole year that I had pre-ordered this book. But I was like, I need more of this woman's voice. I need more.
Agreed. Without camping out in your front yard, of course.
I love it. Please come.
I may camp out in your front yard. I'm a little crazy.
You know very well I'm local, and I have access to the internet.
Let's do it.
Do not tempt me, Nikki. So, besties, we are so lucky. I didn't have to do a synopsis.
Yeah.
I do not have to do the synopsis.
Do you have a copy of your book you can show us? Otherwise, we'll have Tom put a picture here.
I do.
Oh, yay. Oh, it's so pretty. Oh, my gosh, that cover.
So pretty. Look at that spine. Look at this lobster on the back. Oh.
I love that there's a lobster.
There's a lobster on the back.
That's amazing. I love the colors of this one.
Yes.
Oh, gorgeous.
Like, I don't even have, like, the cover on my conversations, but I'm going to write a note because I want to ask. We'll get back to it.
All right. So, Nikki, can you give us a synopsis of your book, Sex, Lies, and Sensibility?
If you want, I guess. If you want to tell the people. Or we could just sit here and bullshit
Molly,
for an hour.
Let her tell the people.
Okay. Two sisters, Nora and Yan, find out at the worst possible time that they're their father's outside children.
Bullshit.
Yeah. They are swiftly disinherited, and the only thing in their name is a dilapidated property in Maine in foreclosure. First alert, ain't no black people in Maine. What are we going to do? Okay. Now, if they can make the money to get the house out of foreclosure, it's theirs. They just have to stay focused, right? But there is a tall, dark, and secretive indigenous native Abenaki tour guide, and he is driving my main character Nora to full and complete distraction. And you guys will get to see what they end up doing. Can they save their house? Can they save their love?
I don't know, man. Bear is a leading man.
Bear. Bear's a man. Okay.
Bear's a man. No.
He's a man. Okay.
I have not had a book boyfriend like Bear in a while.
Yeah. He'll give you a shift in your seat feelings.
Shift in your
sure.
seat.
There is so much to talk about with Sex, Lies, and Sensibility. So much. But the writer in me has to ask.
Yes.
What came first, the chicken or the egg? Did you settle on what happened first with your characters or your location? Where did this story start for you?
Oh, that's so great. I think I did start with a little bit of a location. When I decided I was going to do Sense and Sensibility, one of the core issues with Jane Austen's Sense and Sensibility is the relocation of these women. And when they're relocating, it wasn't that they were just moving to just a smaller area. No. Like they were kind of upended and moved away from the marriage market as well, if you think about it. And so I wanted to isolate these women. And Maine is one of those states that kind of lives in Black lore as like, ain't no Black people in Maine. Like it's just a thing. Like when you say Maine, everyone's just like, you know, everyone's just like, nah, we're gonna pass, right?
That's white people shit.
Yeah, exactly. And so like, so I wanted to maroon.
I know.
I wanted to maroon these women, two Black girls from Montgomery County, right? Who have not necessarily, they've just watched a ton of HGTV, right? But they
she has a Pinterest board.
Yeah, she has a Pinterest board. She has
some kind of plan.
Exactly.
She has like lists. I mean, I'll give Nora that. She's a girl with lists.
She's a girl with a list. And so I thought Maine would be this perfect place to maroon these women. But I also wanted to think about this association that we have that I often feel like is the purview of like what happens when people have generational wealth, which is just like what it means to pass down land, what it means to inherit land. And I don't know if you can have that conversation without like a Native community there.
Right.
Think about especially like how we own land and how we decide who owns it and who's there.
Yeah. I grew up in the Syracuse, New York, Finger Lakes area. I know about stolen land.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh boy, is it a problem where I'm from. And it is a interesting way.
I literally live in Virginia. Where we first stole the land.
Yeah. It's an interesting way to have that conversation without being like, look, white people, you're the devil. Like
well,
the most accurate line in all of Disney is these white men are dangerous.
Yes. Do not trust them. Yes.
Yeah, I mean it was the story itself was like what I wanted to do that was most compelling is like have these two subcultures of like American famous and oldest American subcultures to sit and have a conversation with each other kind of without white folks in the room.
Because it needs to be had. Because we don't
what happens?
We don't need to be involved. Honestly. You don't fucking need us.
What can they talk about? You know?
And I like when Nora gets called out for being
Columbusing.
Thank you.
He calls her,
and she's like, how can I be doing that when I'm Black?
Exactly. That's exactly the question and conversation that I wanted to have. I started off this entire book from that question where he says, you are embodying this identity. And she's like, how could I possibly, right?
When my people were forced to do something horrific, just like your people were forced to do something horrific.
Yeah, and so like one of the things that she says back to him is like, I didn't come over on the Mayflower, so you can miss me with this comparison, you know?
It's your anthropologist showing.
It is. It always
is. It's your anthropologist showing. Your little A is poking through. You might want to button your shirt up there, Superman.
Yeah. But I thought that it was clever. Because it's not a conversation that I would think about. Yeah. And I felt like the way that you handled that conversation, it felt authentic.
Yeah.
It's not a conversation that I think somebody who is white could write.
No.
It's a conversation that needed to come from a perspective of a person of color.
Yeah.
Because it's not our story to tell.
It was just like two people of color having this moment of like, you are doing this thing. How can I be doing this thing when we came in this way, in this manner, right?
Exactly.
And so it it was an interesting conversation that I wanted them to have.
I really like how different the sisters are.
Yeah.
Because essentially these girls come from money. At least they think they come from money,
Yeah.
and their dad is wealthy or was wealthy.
Mm-hmm.
But the sisters, they handle that wealth completely differently.
Mm-hmm.
So Nora is very reserved, and there's a reason for that, and we're going to talk about it a little bit later. But she feels like she needs to be presented as prim and proper and never steps out of line.
Yep.
Whereas her sister is, I'm gonna smoke weed and I'm gonna have locks and I'm gonna go have sex with whomever I want to have sex with, and I'm gonna do whatever feels right to me.
Yeah.
And that is often, right, the stereotype of wealthy people. It's one or the other, right?
Yeah.
And so I thought, like, that conversation was really interesting. And then you had that conversation where Bear's dad won the lottery, so he has the biggest house in the reservation.
Yeah.
Whereas most of the people live in trailers or smaller houses, which is what we see in Native American reservations, right?
Yeah.
That is the community.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I just thought, it's so smart, Nikki. Gosh, you're so smart.
I mean, what's so fun? What I loved about Bear's dad winning the lottery is that he was just like one of like almost 100 folks. So he just literally got so like a tiny sliver of this thing, but now his story is like this person who was always
it's more lore
denigrated. Now he's won the lottery.
It's another story for their tribe.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, Bear is this big lure in the community. And the money that his dad won, well, it probably wasn't much. Maybe $500,000 at most. He's still like this huge, massive like thing. It's so wild.
And but I feel like he does that money to buy like respectability on the reservation. Right?
But he's a whore.
Yes, that's what I was going to say. But he had to have something else, a different story to tell, because he didn't want the story to be anymore. I don't want to give away spoilers, but he didn't want his actual story to be that story anymore. So he had to flip it and have a big house.
It's like literally. Okay, this is what I love about how you guys are reading this. It's like Bear's dad is. I wouldn't even call him a main character, but like he's so important to the reason why Bear is the way he is. Like Bear's dad's story.
If that stone's not on the path is not complete.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. 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 So yeah, like reading Bear's dad is like, honestly, that's
it makes sense.
The heart of understanding why Bear is the way he is. Yeah. Duty over everything.
Talking about
and a certain comment that is made by another family member. I'm not going to say what that comment is, but it put Bear in a box that this is what his job is going to be moving forward. Yeah. And I mean, that is a thing with a lot of family businesses. Yeah. I mean, it is. Yeah. I can't imagine the pressure that someone like Bear would be facing, because you're not just in charge of the family business. Yeah. You're in charge of literally saving what is left of our identity.
Yep. Absolutely. Whether he wanted to be that symbol or not. Right. He just looked around and was like, who else is going to do it? Right. He says this very often. It's just like, okay, let's just say it doesn't have to be me. Now, who else? Right?
Okay, fucking somebody else do it then. Yeah. Somebody else step up.
Yeah.
And
you guys aren't. Cool beans, bye.
Seeing his anxiety and his spiral, I just kept feeling like he got sexier the more anxious he got, which probably says something about me.
Yeah. Honestly, I gave him a terrible, terrible stomach issues.
Oh, yeah.
That coincided.
Ulcer. Yeah.
So since we're already talking about it, your research for this book is chef's kiss. Like,
yes.
I mean, I'm going to fuck up their name, by the way. You've been posting all about it on socials, and I have to say, seeing the work on your second novel, we would love to hear the experience you had going to work with the, I'm going to say this wrong, Wabanaki Confederacy. I can't talk. And how they help shape the other people that you created in the book.
Yeah,
Abenaki. Thank you.
Yeah. Yes. No. That was
words are hard.
That was really, really important to me, because when you are building out a world in the universe and you're building out a story, it's representation whether you want it to be or not.
Yeah.
And that was a particular subjectivity that I didn't want to fuck around with.
Right.
Right. And so I traveled to Maine and
Yeah.
met with scholars and artists and talked to them about what the kind of day in the life was, and went to like hang out with young folks and older folks and elders and aunties and uncles to talk a little bit about what their life was. And there's some instances of things that, of course, that I heard or people talked about that I had in the book, and with sensitivity readers and with conversations, they're like, hey, this isn't actually your story to discuss. And you know what happened to that stuff? It's out.
It's gone.
Right? It wasn't. And so one of the things about, one of the things that people misunderstand about like doing research and doing this type of work is that just going there and like taking a look is not enough. Like, you're in conversation, right?
Yeah.
With the community, and you're saying, I'm building this story. It's a love story. I still feel like at its heart, it's just, about these two Black women who come together.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, it is 100%. It is 3 different stories.
Right, right. But I also want it to be extremely authentic to this character who I had grown to love. And so research becomes the only way that I feel comfortable building out an authentic bear and building out Bear's community as well.
Yeah. That makes complete sense. You want to... Sorry, go ahead, April.
When you guys get the book and you go to read it, read her author's note, read Nikki's author's note at the beginning, where she talks about the sensitivity and the process that you went through.
Yeah.
And I am a big reader of acknowledgments at the end. I don't know why. I just have, since my little kid days of getting a tape and like opening it up and seeing who the band thanked, like I like to read the acknowledgments. And you mentioned in there's a Black woman that's in Maine that you met with as well. And I thought that was really cool too, because I think, maybe I'm wrong in this, but I think the assumption can be made that you as a Black woman, well, she can tell that story. Right. But you were not telling your story. You were telling the story of what it would be like to be a Black person in Maine.
Absolutely. And one of the things, I say this in my author's note, like I could write for 100 years and not pin down
absolutely
multifaceted stories of like Black folks in the Americas.
I mean, you could write a million novels and not cover every struggle you have.
Exactly. And so to assume that the like Native American representation required all this research, and like the Black representation somehow didn't, or being a sports person somehow didn't.
Yeah.
What it does is make all the subjectivities that much smaller, right?
Yeah.
I think any person who's doing a creative thing, they have to do the work, and everyone can always tell when they haven't. Even if you're writing a story, you're a white woman writing a story about a white woman who is a doctor and struggles with anxiety. If you didn't do the work, white women doctors who struggle with anxiety will call bullshit on you.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know?
Okay, I'm going to intervene for a second. Yeah. April, I don't want to hear shit again about how I hyperfixate on my research anymore.
I
don't want to hear it.
I do never complain about you hyperfixating on your research. I complain about the fact that you don't finish anything.
It's called ADHD.
ADHD, baby!
ADHD! I'm just saying I do hyperfixate on it is true. I do hyperfixate.
No, I mean, I appreciate that research. Because I'm the librarian. I have read a lot of really bad books.
Yes.
I have read a lot of really good books. And I'll tell you that my favorite books are authentic representation that have research in them.
Mm-hmm.
I also like it when someone's banging. But that isn't... I literally read a kid's book recently, Authentic Voice. It's a girl who's autistic. It's written by an autistic author. Mm-hmm. My son is autistic. I saw so much of James in this character, even though she was writing about an autistic girl who was diagnosed later, because that's more common with girls. Mm-hmm. But I was like, oh gosh, there's so much here where she's writing. And then in her author's note, she talked about, I can't write for all autistic people, because when you meet one autistic person, you've met one autistic person. And I was like, brilliant. But I mean, that the thing about your books is that they read like you did the work.
Yeah.
And I want
really
someone to do the work, you know?
Yeah.
I
And
really appreciate that. Like, honestly, that above anything else is the cultural anthropologist in me just being at that, because
you left your heart and soul on the page.
But I feel like, Nikki, we've had discussions on this pod before about other books, especially books that include characters of color, to be background characters, or the Dreamland Billionaires. In the second book, the main female character is a Black woman, and I'm not sure that there was ever really a conversation that this author had to
with
figure
a Black
out
woman
beyond a stereotype of what a woman in corporate America, a Black woman in corporate America would be like. You know what I mean? And it was frustrating to me. That was my least favorite book in the series, because I was like, I feel like there wasn't research in this one.
Yeah.
The other ones were spot on.
Right.
I want research. I don't care what you're writing. I just
right.
Even if you're researching, would this penis fit in this vagina? Because
we have a list of authors, starting with Addison Armstrong. That girl is spectacular with research.
She's so good with research.
So, if you need a list, gang, hit us up on Book Besties.
But I do really feel like we need some authors to be realistic in penis size. Like, I would.
Seriously, not all of them are this big with a mushroom cap. Not all of them.
I honestly, this is where we diverge. I literally unrealistic penises for the life of me. Like, forever.
That's the author in you.
And the author in me is always going to be a hammer. I'm sorry.
Because you're not writing about this.
Like, I'm sorry. Like,
you know what? This leads to my next question.
Like, if she can't feel him all the way up through her whole body, I don't want it.
Honestly, put me on your other list of authors to brag about unrealistic dicks, because it's always going to be me. I'm always the culprit. Okay? I have never read a book to say, now let me see how, in what other ways this man can please her other than like, I'm never going to read a book that is just that is not about.
You don't want a romance novel where he has a micro penis but he's got a heart of gold.
Yeah, it's like, what are we doing, ladies? And what are we doing? Right?
But couldn't he just be like a regular size? Like, I don't know.
Right, but like
you don't want that.
But let's say you're reading.
This is fantasy for a reason, fuckers.
Like, you're watching like Dynasty, or you're watching
which variation of Dynasty,
right? Or any of your like daytime TV, and like the women are sitting and having like just a very reasonable conversation about a man, and then they shake hands and say, you know what, we shouldn't fight over men. And then they shake hands and leave. You're just like, I'm not fucking watching this. You turn. Like, no one is getting into the thing for a serious engagement with how actual adults would. You're there for the slap. You want Joanna to really go in.
You're right.
That's all I'm saying is,
he's right.
If you want, like regular men.
If you want realism sex, you're not getting it from Nikki Payne. That's what the bottom line is.
Men, I can't help you. Okay.
You know
if you want a giant cucumber that you can feel all the way up through your whole body into your throat, then Nikki Payne will write that for you.
Nikki's your girl.
It's me. Pick me.
Oh my god. This is perfect, actually. This is going to lead into my next question. Yes. Our stupid millennial asses. Okay, this is 100% a millennial thing. You are showing your age, by the way, ma'am.
Yeah.
The thing that poor Nora, not only is she's a meme.
Yeah.
But she has a sex tape.
Yeah.
That ruined her life.
Yeah.
Yep.
Ruined her life. What brought you to the decision to bring this topic problem to life? Like, it is a major issue, not for just for our generation, but the generations down. Like, we are seeing, since Kim Kardashian and Ray J, we have had this, you know what I mean? Like, since that day, that is the day in history for me that evidently changed millennial history.
Yeah.
Sex tapes are now a terrible part of our lives.
Yep.
Children can't get their tits off the internet, asses, dicks, everything's out there, guys. Forever.
Yeah.
Internet's forever, children.
Forever.
Forever, children. So, why choose to add this to your novel?
This is this added layer of reserve that I wanted. If you've read Sense and Sensibility, Nora and Yan come across very differently for very different reasons. And one of the things that I wanted Nora to do was to have a real sense of the consequences of like of actions like Yan.
Yeah.
Right? It was not that, and even if you think about the heart of Sense and Sensibility, it's called Sense and Sensibility because Jane was saying, Eleanor needs to chill. I mean, like Eleanor needs to like get
calm her tits,
get some D, you know, and,
calm your tits, bitch.
And Marianne needs to fucking chill, right? So she was literally saying that you cannot be happy on either side of this world, and that it was only when the two sisters came like together in their understanding of like, hey, this is what it means to be in this world. You know, you have to have some sense and sensibility. You have to have and like fight for love and, you know, cool, calm your fucking tits. You know what I mean? That's how you do that. I wanted to find a way to get Nora to the very end of that sense spectrum, to have her be there and have it naturally kind of come out of what I felt like was our millennial angst, is of our worst moment, of our worst part of ourselves being forever memorialized on the internet. And this is the real life of people everywhere. Like if they're camera Karens, they're getting fired. And one of the major themes of Jane Austen, particularly of Sense and Sensibility, is about reputation. It's about gossip, right? It is about what people are saying about you when you don't know it. And if you're not in control of that, there is something that people want to assume that reputations don't matter. But the internet is your entire reputation now. And your entire reputation can be ruined by becoming a meme, by having yourself a sex tape. It can absolutely ruin you. And so reputations are very real. And when they're broken, the consequences are still very real today.
And I think, so educator hat here, we have a real problem in schools of kids having sex or sexual contact in the school. Unfortunately, schools are dirty. Go do it somewhere else. Ugh, gross.
I mean, they're vaping too. It's nasty. Y'all are nasty. Knock it off.
They're filming it, and it's. I've actually spoken to students who this has been something that's happened, and then the boy shares it. And it gets around the whole school. And she's like, well, now I have a reputation. And I'm like, I want to be like, yeah, of course he shared it.
Yeah.
And you are the one that looks bad. And that is basically what Nora's story is.
Yeah.
She's the one that looks bad because it was shared, not her partner who's in it with her.
Exactly.
It's her reputation that's tarnished.
Gets off scot-free. He does move. But it is forever her in the photo. As she's nasty Nora.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's how it works.
Yeah.
And that goes into that feminist.
Also, if you think about it for someone who wanted to work with children, right? And like perhaps if she wanted another job, then maybe it would, you know,
it wouldn't have been a big deal. It wouldn't have been so devastating.
Someone who wanted to be a teacher, who wanted to work with youth all the time, it was to her an immediate non-starter.
It is. It's just, it changes everything.
It changes every conversation from then on. And it's an important thing that we don't talk about. And unfortunately, I mean, Molly's absolutely right. Unfortunately, this is happening a lot more to like the generation younger than us, or even younger millennials, because I'm an elder millennial.
Same.
But the shit that our parents did, that's not on the internet.
No one's ever going to know.
No one's ever going to know the stupid stuff that they did.
I safely got drunk and nearly died in several cornfields.
Yeah.
Thanks to the internet, that never happened.
Yeah.
Well, I guess now that I said it here,
because I mean, I was going through college and the internet was still relatively new.
Yeah.
They were talking about what is this electronic mail when I was in college.
Yes.
So, I mean, like, that's how old I am. But now, the younger millennials, the Gen Zers, the alphas, that Molly and my kids are alphas.
Yeah.
Your kid too, right, Nikki?
Yeah, I have a Gen Zer, but I have
I do too.
alphas too. Yeah.
My girls are right
Mine
on
are
the
both
line.
alphas.
Mine are
But,
on the line.
But that they've never grown up without the internet, without they're desensitized to what they see.
Yeah.
And it's so easy to just pull out your phone and do it for the likes.
Yes. Yes.
And
that's like
destroys you.
That's the difference. I feel like one of the things that like elder millennials, and maybe it's like a blessing and a curse, is because we had 1 foot in and 1 foot out of the digital world.
We get to watch.
We've always been
watchers.
What came of age during Instagram, where we were very much, there's a very much a distance between your digital self and your home self. You're just like, oh, I'm just gonna put this picture up and make a show and do this picture, and it's for Instagram. Do it for the gram.
Right.
But I think that wall has dissipated. Like things like TikTok, where authenticity, or who you really are, is the story. Yeah. And so like online, like you are who you are, and that becomes a real thing in a way that my older millennial self says, oh, that's online. That's not real. That's fake.
Right.
Right. But for a generation below us and those people, that is it.
That is reality.
That's reality.
That is the reality. Yeah.
That line has disappeared.
It's so wild.
Yeah. It was a good call to choose that, I think, because it is, it's everywhere.
You did it with grace too. It's not like you made her nasty, Nora, and you made her this dirty person. You really showed how it not only changed her, but changed her whole fucking life.
Yeah.
And no spoilers, gang, because we're not gonna, but the way it affects Nora.
Yeah.
It is very apparent that character was changed.
Yeah.
And her sister, pushes on it, and I'm going too far into the story. So I'm going to move on to the next question because I want to keep talking.
We want everyone to read this book.
Go read the book, and then we'll talk about it after. We'll do a revisit or something, guys. Yes. I don't know what to tell you. So April and I read the digital copy. By the way, y'all, it is super fucking good. Go pre-order it on Kindle. Frickin' pre-order your physical copy. But I am an audiobook girl through and through. Yeah. Y'all know that. So my loving, I gotta know, who's doing the audiobook?
Casey Rogers again.
Yes!
Casey Rogers again.
Welcome back, Casey. She's your voice.
She is my voice.
She's your voice. So and I don't know how to explain that. She's you without being you.
Yes. I sometimes feel like she was like over my shoulder while I'm typing going, ha, yeah, say that. Like she is.
I could hear her voice when I was physically reading. Yes. Because I knew her from the last book.
Yes.
And I was like, oh God, and I was like, ha, laughing at her. I'm like, you're so funny.
And you need an audiobook narrator to get it, right? You need someone that like gets the voice, gets the humor, because there's so much humor in your writing too. Yeah. And I think that can be missed. I actually saw a TikTok, Kelsey Navarro, who narrates the audiobooks for Olivia Dade. She posted it's so easy to be an audiobook narrator. And it was one sentence. And she could change the inflection of every single word. And it changed the meaning of how it was read. And so it's so important to find a narrator that can read you,
That gets your voice. It's not about being the voice. It's about getting the voice. Yes. And so you can tell when an audiobook narrator, as a dyslexic queen, I am very versed in the audiobook world.
Yeah.
And I can tell you can tell when the narrator has read it.
Yeah.
And when they're reading it as they go. Yeah. There is a huge difference. So she does the work. And we appreciate it.
She does. She's fantastic.
I'll be excited to listen to it too, because I love audiobooks. I don't have an issue reading the physical book or the audiobook, but I will often go back to my favorite physical books that I read and listen to them because I like to hear a different voice in my head. So this is definitely one I'll go back and listen, because she was a great narrator for Pride and Protest. Oh my gosh, so good.
She was great.
I was like, ooh.
So a major part of this novel is a sibling relationship. Are Nora and Yana, I'm saying that wrong probably.
Yeah, it's like Yan, like Fan.
Okay. Yan, are they inspired by anyone particular? I found their sibling relationship familiar and fun at the same time. Like, I know them. I know these sisters.
Yeah. I would honestly say that my own sister and me and my own sister are very similar to Nora and Yan. I'm definitely Yan in that scenario. She has like these things to do, and it has to be done in this particular and precise way. And somehow, like sometimes if you deviate from whatever is in her head, then you're not helping, right? And so I came from in this experience, even though I know Nora is my main character, I tried to write Yan with as much understanding as possible. She was completely absent and fucking up, but she was also not appreciated for the types of contributions she actually could make. And so Nora was often frustrated, but she was frustrated because she could only see one way. And honestly, if you think about it, in the complete end of that, like, did she have to build the thing that she thought she had to build? She didn't.
No.
And that was one of the first things that her sister said. It's like, you don't have to do it this way.
Right.
You know? And Nora was like, nope, I got a plan. We got to execute.
It was what was in my mind. I have to do it.
We got to do it.
Yeah.
But
I have a list. You know?
I think Yan, I think she's flighty, but she brings the vibes, you know?
She brings the vibes.
That's a contribution that you need when you're making an N. Like, you need a vibe.
You need a vibe. And
that's
honestly,
the flighty but brings the vibes one?
Yeah.
Stop.
Nora was so happy with what Yan actually brought to the interiority of that place. You know?
Yeah. I mean, she also brought goats. So.
She brought goats. A sustainable...
This is the season of goats, April. It is the season of goats.
Sustainable solution to poison ivy. Yes. Yes.
It's the second book we've read this month that had a goats story
it's goat season. It's goat season.
It's goat season. There is a big conversation on family dynamics in this book.
Yeah.
And the complications that come with that. This goes from both your lead characters, for Nora and Bear. How did you decide to make those choices for each character and balance the storyline?
Yeah. I wanted Nora to be constantly striving toward this ideal or idea of perfection, and to have the sense that, like, if she doesn't execute this thing, then it was somehow going to mean something for her and what she was able to do. Right? The stakes were much higher than even the financial stakes. Right? They were about what Nora as a person could do.
She was putting her life. She was putting her life on the line there.
She quite literally was. Right? When she was like, no, not a ton of spoilers, but when she's in this situation in the funeral home and she's told all this information, they use her background to try to press her into making this one type of deal. And it's this athleticism in her, it's this competition in her to say, like, you will not make my choices. You know? Only I will make my choices. And she lets them know in no uncertain terms that she chooses a different way.
And and that's true with Bear as well in this novel. And that's what's very similar about them both.
Sorry, I love Taylor Swift. I'm a big
It's
Swiftie.
the season of her.
Yeah.
And in that scene at the funeral home, Nora is embodying the Swiftie line, I didn't have it in me to go with Grace, because when you told me I fight, you said I was brave. Yeah. And that to me that was her in that moment. Like, I can't go with Grace because Jan thinks when I fight, I'm brave. Yeah. Right. My mom thinks when I fight, I'm brave. Yeah. You know, and that was that moment.
And she had to be Yan looking up at her like Yan was waiting for.
Yeah, I said Yan.
No, you're fine.
I kept calling her Yanny, so that's what she was in my head.
My brain, I was doing Yane, Y-A-N-N, like Renee, Yane.
I'll try to do a better job of that, but it was literally her name is Marianne.
Uh-huh.
She was just like, I'm not gonna do the Madonna whore thing. I'm gonna take Mary completely out. But she just kept Anne,
Yeah.
So it's just Marianne minus the Mary.
Yeah, I tack E's onto people's names. Like my son is Samuel, he's Sammy,
Yeah.
That's what you do.
Yeah.
But
so like Yan was looking up to, like, she could see in that moment that Yan was waiting for like Nora,
be the big sister I know you are,
to completely own the
situation.
situation.
True story for every big sister in the world, where they have to be the pillar when everybody else is crumbling around them.
Yeah.
There's a whole Encanto song about that. I don't know, Molly, if there's a question about this in your notes, and so I'm sorry if I'm jumping ahead, but I just had a thought. The running for me, I am not a runner. Do not put me down for cardio. If I'm running, you better run too.
Yes.
Disaster. But to me, I think, and I don't even know, maybe this isn't even all English nerdy, but to me, there was a symbolism that they were both running for their lives more than just running for the athleticism. I feel like this was like them
April,
racing to never get
English teacher bag right now. Like, I didn't mean to cut you off, but like, come on, sis. You're doing it. Yeah.
That's funny you say that, because John Green says that English teachers ruin his books. He's like, I don't care that it made it red. That was just the color that came to my mind. And I'm like, well,
I find myself being very intentional on those things.
We know.
It's rare.
There's a ton of sports that they could have both participated in, that they could have both participated in together. That, to me, running is a solitary sport. You can run on a team, but it is a solitary sport. They both picked a sport that was solitary and yet chose to do it together.
Pretty consistently.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
sorry.
Well, let's jump into the questions
English
again.
teachery there.
Let's jump into the questions again before we start doing spoilers again. Don't dive into spoilers. I
don't think that was a spoiler.
No, she's a runner.
No, I think before I start rambling.
You
spoilers, because I want to start talking and I can't start talking.
Yeah.
So
good
just
call,
like
Molly.
Yeah. Why do you think I'm like half this episode? So just like with Pride and Protest, seriously, me reading a book where I can't talk about spoilers is stupid.
Yeah.
This book is inspired by a classic. Duh. If you're just figuring this out, where the fuck have you been? But including some open door spice. What was the process of writing those scenes for you like? Because you are taking something that is classic literature and you're flipping it on its head, making it a spicy open door romance. Yeah. So what was that process like for you?
Fun, first of all.
I mean, that research was fantastic.
Yeah, do you have to do research for that part too?
Actually, I think you want to write this. You want to write the spice, but you also you want this open door intimacy to be absolutely about them, right? So there's a scene within their, point of when they're getting intimate where like hair is touched, right?
Yeah.
But this is a scene that is uniquely Bear and Nora.
Yeah.
Because of what that means to him.
Yeah. And what it means to her.
What it means to her. To care for someone. You know what I mean? That was also like a very interesting point of cultural confluence about what it means in Black communities and Native communities for someone to do your hair.
You gave them intimacy in those moments where we don't normally get intimacy in novels. Yeah. So you were giving intimacy without giving us sex, which is and that's really hard to do for an author.
And that's the thing to do. And that's why I prefer romance novels to erotica. Yeah. Because I want intimacy in the little things, not just in the sex. Yeah. I want there to be an intimacy in the relationship. I don't want them just fucking.
Yeah.
They have an intimacy. They have an intimacy in that she keeps Tums on her.
Yes, in her fanny pack.
That is an intentional thing that she does for him. Sorry, I don't want to give spoilers, but my gosh, Nikki, this book.
Next question.
No, but that's actually like an important aspect of what he has been missing all his life. It is that we talk about the symbolism, like that care that he absolutely feels like he doesn't need, and argues all the time that he doesn't need that care.
And that care is a multi-pronged thing in this book.
Yeah.
It is not just one thing. It's not just sex. It's multi-pronged.
And it's on both sides, because she doesn't need anyone either, but who makes her green smoothies every day?
Every day, when she only had mac and cheese. You know?
Yeah.
Who puts too much cinnamon in them every single time? Okay? Right?
Yeah.
So there's care there.
There's care
Absolute
there. There is so many quotable lines in this novel. April and I kept texting back and forth in the group.
Yes, we did.
The group chat was full of giggles.
How far are you? Because I have to tell you something.
Tell me yours and I'll tell you mine.
Do you have a favorite line, Nikki?
Oh, do I have a favorite line?
Yeah.
Okay, look, there's so many.
Okay, so there's two that were really big for me. Plantain pants.
Yes, plantain pants. Yeah.
Hashtag burial.
Oh, hashtag burial. Yes.
Those two, there's a couple more, but those two, I was just like, plantain pants. I read that and I was just like at work and I was the color of April's lipstick, reading my Kindle, eating my salad, going.
Yeah.
The first time I laughed out loud, I think it was the first time reading this one, was when they go to check into the roadside motel.
Yeah.
And the owner or manager or whatever, he goes through the list of rules and it's like no pets, no this, no weed, and
no reefer. He's the reefer because he's an old white man.
John goes, we can do 2 out of 3.
Like, and you don't know from Yan which 2
like, she is so authentically herself the whole time. You know what I mean? She's like, we'll do 2 out of 3. Don't worry about it. It's
I
like,
vibed with that girl so hard this whole book.
Also, that like the way that they were acting in that really shitty motel, like that was one of the things that like made Bear realize like they were such fish out of water.
Yeah,
asking about a pool, asking about turn down service, and he was like, "You have no idea where you are."
Yeah. And I think that goes to more of the the wealth. I don't even think that at the start of this book that I really realized how much they came from wealth until. That moment I was like, oh yeah, this family is very wealthy, because she works as a pharmacy tech, right?
Out of spite, absolutely.
And I'm like,
absolutely. Absolutely, someone has done this in real life.
Yeah. It's like she like, but it's not because she has to. It's the same thing about like when she was at the funeral home. The same aspect of her that's like, you are not going to...
It's that level of defiance. You are not changing.
Defiance. She's still cashing the checks. He's still not talking to her, right? But she turned in her very, very expensive car for a regular one, and is a way to say like, I don't need you, right? And so it wasn't... I feel like it was a gesture more than like, I need this job. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
that's not how I read it initially, and then when I got there I was like, oh yeah, that's what this is. Like,
she was absolutely trying to prove that she didn't need that. But on some level, like when Bear mentions the purchases that she's making, they're subconscious things. So one of the things when we talk about like POV is like, I never wanted Nora in her own POV to feel that she is a wealthy woman.
Right.
That she came from wealth. Right. But it is only in Bear's POV or when other people are talking about her do you realize these, like when she goes to run with the kids.
Right. And they're talking about her wardrobe.
And they're talking about everything that she has on and how it doesn't register to her how expensive everything she has on is. Right. When Lou sees her and starts to case her whole house.
Yeah. Lou knows the price tag of everything.
Of everything, baby. Lou knows what everything costs. Okay.
Lou.
And and that's the thing. Like, I never wanted it to be a natural part of Nora's POV.
No, because it's not. Because it's
you never know
her life. It was her life.
It was her life. It was her life. but everyone around
so much
her,
easier to see the flaws in other people than in yourself.
Absolutely. All of Bear's family and friends noticed that his this is such a small little detail.
Yeah.
Noticed that his Jordans were
Yeah.
new and uncreased. And when Laura noticed his shoes, she absolutely said nondescript Jordans.
Yeah.
Right? As in, like,
two different point of views.
They barely made a blip, but Bear was like going all out. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Two different point of views. Nora and Bear have a very special way of communicating through music, movie, and sports. Mostly sports. This is a multi-pronged question. So first, I need to know if you have beef with MJ.
Look, okay, this comes from my
Do you have beef with MJ?
This is my very real experience. Okay, now, my husband
this MJ will get upset.
Okay. My husband is a Michael Jordan just stand to the end. To the end.
Oh, so he gets under your skin when he talks.
Play basketball.
I'm just tired of fucking hearing about him.
Yeah. He used to play basketball. And we watched that Last Dance documentary probably 100 times. And one of the things that kept popping out to me from that Last Dance documentary is how terrible a person Michael Jordan was.
Yeah, he wasn't a good human.
He wasn't a good human.
He wasn't
and
a good human.
The reason why it's not that Nora thinks that Michael Jordan can't play basketball, right? But she prefers LeBron James because he is like
a good human.
He's a good human, and he's good at basketball. So they have this tension, even like in these small moments when he's calling something the greatest of all time, like Michael Jordan, and she wants to go, and he's just like, "Don't. We're not having this conversation right now." So that is their beef from the beginning.
So, I am not a basketball fan, but I'm from Ohio. So, I grew up an hour and a half from Cleveland. Yeah. And, so I got to pick MJ over, LeBron.
Oh, yes. Because, it was the Miami conference, right?
Yep. He left to get that ring and he didn't get it until he came back to Cleveland.
Okay. Honestly. Okay. I love that we're getting into this because that is a major theme of the book is allowing yourself to be a villain. To move into a different direction against what everyone else wants for you.
Yeah, right? But he was dead to me when he left. I was rooting for him when he was in Akron and I was in college and he was playing and killing it and
there's a line.
Drafted into the Cavs and or not even drafted, they just hired him.
They're just like, it's you. There's nobody else.
There's a movie line coming in my mind that's like, I was rooting for you. Yeah, everybody was rooting for you. Oh, it's the Tyra. It's Tyra. It's Tyra.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So favorite sports movie.
But he went to Miami, so
he went to Miami, and he was the villain. But he also had a better infrastructure and a better team, and he was able to actually dominate the playoffs.
What a traitor, though! Don't abandon Ohio.
Says the Browns fan.
That's exactly why that controversial discussion around what makes someone a champion and what makes someone decide to make those moves. Why I felt like it was so good for them to have that disagreement and to agree on, oh, we shouldn't do this. Remember how LeBron face planted
then LeBron came back to Cleveland, and the year my son was born was the year they won the national championship. Yeah. And they were giving out onesies in the hospitals. All the babies had onesies that said all in, and it had Cleveland Cavs on it. And so Sam was actually born the day before the national championship, of which they won. Wow. And I was just hoping that his onesie wouldn't be bad luck. I don't even like basketball. I love football and I love baseball. I don't care about basketball. I like hockey too, but basketball has never really been my thing. But he needed to come back and win in Cleveland. We needed a win.
He did, honestly, and he did. He did. I think he had to understand what it meant to kind of work in a different team, work in a different dynamic. Yeah. But yeah. Anyway, so that's the heart of their a big theme of their relationship.
Yeah,
is
absolutely.
How do you move forward? What's the actual goal here? The championship or getting yourself in an environment to win?
Right. Yeah.
So now I have to ask, favorite sports movie?
Oh, it is actually Mighty Ducks.
Is it? Mine
It
too.
is
It's a great
actually Mighty
movie.
Ducks.
Same, because you're a millennial.
I
You
like
have
Mighty
to.
Ducks too. But my favorite sports movie is A League of Their Own.
Oh, it's
Ooh,
so
that is so good.
I'm a huge, in general, I like Tom Hanks anyway.
Mhm.
But I played softball for 10 years. So
I have a theory about him, but I'll talk about that later. Um,
if it's not good,
I don't have
wanna
anything
hear
nice
it.
to say about it. And then finally, is there a magic playlist?
He's America's sweetheart, Molly.
He's America's sweetheart.
We'll talk about it later.
I don't want to talk about it later. I don't want to talk about it at
Fine.
all.
You want to hear my theory?
No, I don't. I don't want to hear it at all.
Well, it's either on or off pod. You want it on the record or not?
Just go on to the next question.
Okay, and finally, for this part of this question,
Yes.
is there a magical playlist?
Oh, there is a playlist. And it includes "Freaking You" by Jodeci.
Yeah,
Okay.
I heard that and I was like,
Yeah.
I know it.
Yeah, like this is one of the gags that
Yeah.
Dan is just like, can you be so fucking for real right now?
Mhm.
Because she's looking at the playlist, you know, at their cool down playlist.
And y'all aren't fucking. Give me a break.
Yeah, and she was just like, I'm sorry, Jodeci.
It's the right
Freaking You.
tempo.
Yeah, she was just like, this is the right tempo for cool downs, and she was just like please, like be for real.
Mhm.
No one puts "Freaking You" on a playlist unless it is that.
Yeah.
You know? And so, yeah, I mean, they were both kidding themselves.
So, are you going to be releasing the magical playlist?
Ooh, maybe I should.
Yes, you should.
I would die.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
I'm sure people are going to be asking for it.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of like 80s and 90s.
Oh, yeah.
hair, slutty rock. You know,
Yeah.
I like to call like when I say like slutty rock, I'm like you know,
Like
like
the men dressed like whores. I know what you mean.
they dress like whores, but they're also like talking about whores a lot. You know,
Yeah.
what I mean?
So
like,
we don't know if they're the prostitutes or they're talking about prostitutes. Yes.
Somebody's a prostitute.
Just imagine like
Someone's getting fucked tonight.
Aerosmith ragdoll Cena in the movies, Hot Trap, Daddy's Little Cutie.
Mhm.
Exactly.
Like that is absolutely it's that. You
Look,
know,
an episode where I didn't sing, but there's still music in the episode.
yeah, yes.
I called her out on it, and then I sang this episode too.
Oh yeah, are we not supposed to sing? Let me know.
No.
It's totally fine. Molly just sings too much.
I sing a lot because I do word association and then I take
ADHD, baby. That's what's going on.
Nikki, you are a sneaky sneaker girl, and you didn't think we were going to notice?
Uh-oh.
The Bennett sisters.
Oh. And
Yeah.
Should
No
we not
spoilers,
talk about
gang.
that? Should we not talk about that?
Oh, I don't look.
Okay, that's all I'm going to say. You're sneaky. You know what you did.
I know what I did.
Moving forward.
I texted Molly and was like, "Oh my gosh!"
Yeah. They're in there. And
We'll
they
leave
get,
that out. So you guys go read it, and you'll see what we're talking about.
Yep. We're not going to go anything else.
Yeah.
This is a more serious one. You somehow balanced two cultures into one book.
Mm-hmm.
That must have been so difficult.
Yeah.
There is a conversation about the African American experience in places like Bar Harbor.
Yeah.
And I don't want to take away from that conversation, but I do want to talk about how you brought sickle cell into this book so seamlessly.
Yeah.
Can you share with us why you included sickle cell in this story? I have two facts. Sickle cell disease affects 1 in 500 African American women.
Mm-hmm.
Approximately 300,000 infants are born with it annually.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's awful. Okay, so please, we would love to.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. One of the reasons why I included sickle cell anemia is that one, it's a misunderstood disease.
Yeah.
But also it relies on an extreme amount of cultural competency by like the local doctors and medical community.
Right.
To understand precisely how to manage it.
Right.
So one of the things you see when Yan is first sick was this kind of scrambling.
Yeah.
And this sense of like, we actually don't have the tools for that. Right. And when she has a larger attack, they absolutely know that they're not in a safe space, to get her the type of care that she needs.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things, like the aspects, particularly of being African American in Maine, is that where do you go if you're in a rural area? Where do you go for
what do you do?
a
How do you
for a very precise type of care? And what do you do?
Right.
And what are your options? And they literally they had the one, right?
Yeah.
And that's just, let's go to the largest city and let's
and you
let's
shouldn't
see
have
what
to.
happens. Yeah.
You
Right.
shouldn't be hoping
Right.
and praying you can get treatment for
Yeah.
an illness that affects so many
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
This is the second book that we've read for Pod where a main character has had sickle cell.
Yeah.
And I didn't understand it. I mean, I didn't understand what it was until we read that first book. And then I asked Katie if she could basically send us some good articles where we could get some research.
Yeah.
But I mean, it sounds incredibly painful.
Yeah.
It is incredibly painful.
Incredibly painful. And it
excruciating.
It disproportionately affects and it disproportionately affects more Black people than it does any other ethnicity. And so I feel like it's not talked about.
Yeah.
And maybe it's because, I don't personally know anyone with it, but it doesn't seem like that conversation comes up enough.
Yeah.
And the research
something
is
that is so incredibly painful.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And when you think about it, and like, not to get like too deep into like medical anthropology, when you also combine that,
we'll take it though. We love that shit.
When you also combine that with the fact that like women and Black folks, like, pain is rarely believed.
Yeah.
Right? So
absolutely,
you can go into a doctor's office and say like, my elbow, my body, etc., and like not be
it's your uterus
medications. Or Black people can go in and like not be believed for the amount of pain that they're in. Like, if you combine that with,
it was lore for a long time with doctors that y'all had a higher pain tolerance.
Yeah. Like, that's a real fact, and it's not like an ancient fact from the 1800s.
It was like the 80s.
Yeah, and
the
so
80s.
When you combine those like terrible statistics with the way women and Black people in particular are treated when it comes to pain, like having sickle cell in this space becomes like that much more, like how necessary it was that she had an advocate, and how necessary it was that there was someone there to say, remember this, remember to talk about this, and why she was desperate, why Nora is very prideful, but in a desperate moment, like, called her father's family, to say, look, tell us where to go and what to do,
Right. And I mean, that was a huge moment for her to have to do that too.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's still, that conversation is still lacking in the medical world, because even today, 2024, Black women die during childbirth more than other women, other ethnicities. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that the judgment of pain is not evaluated the same.
You are exactly right.
And
bullshit.
There's actually I don't know exactly what it's called, but there's like a scale in which they'll allow someone to have a VBAC, and there's a different scale depending on your skin color.
Wow.
And so someone like me, who was incredibly high risk to have a VBAC, vaginal birth after C-section, I was still being encouraged to do it, whereas other women, Black women, would be discouraged who had less of a risk than I did.
Yes.
And this is the medical communities, this is what they are using to document, and it's the wildly acceptable thing.
And not only that, the insidious thing about those types of things is that they are given this era of like medical science and neutrality, right? Like, there's given the sense of like, this is just the science,
right?
When, in fact, those ideas of like science are incredibly culturally coded, like, and bound up with a lot of racist notions about what is medically, like, just to give you an example. Here, sorry if we're getting way off topic.
No, like, this is on topic.
Like,
and we're interested.
I think it was like in in the 1850s. You can look this
Mhm.
up. This was a real medical journal. There was a medical disorder affecting Black folk, and it was called drapetomania. Please Google it. It is literally the medical condition of an enslaved person wanting to be free, right?
Jesus Christ.
Pathologized, like, and what? Guess what the cure was for drapetomania?
Probably not freedom.
It's not freedom. It was
It's
cutting
probably a
off a
bullet to
limb.
the brain, unfortunately.
Cutting off a limb?
Cutting off a limb is the cure. So when we think
That's just
about
going to
like,
encourage this,
right, so like when we think about like medical knowledge as being neutral and free of
It's not.
cultural biases, it's absolutely not.
No, because the people who are driving the medical community and the medical knowledge are the people who are doing the medicine. And historically, that has been white men.
Come on.
There's Molly and I read a book. It's a horror book, so it's not, accurate, but it's historical. And it talks about how women were getting, I can't even remember what the disease was called, but all these women were getting this post pregnancy infection.
Oh, the fever, the
yes,
thrush, because
and the reason was because the doctors weren't washing their hands. It wasn't because these women were sick and there was something wrong with them. It was because doctors were literally spreading this.
What novel was that?
And Molly can speak to this from a personal level of how the military treats women when it comes to their medical care.
Yeah.
Everything is related to the fact that they are women and have uteruses and they have hormones, and there's nothing wrong with you. Yeah. You just have you're a woman. And that's awful. Like, we need medicine to catch up.
When I first started showing signs of my autoimmune disease, it was a migraine. Mm-hmm. And it was really severe. You remember my migraines. They were awful, April. And
debilitating. Like, she
debilitating. Was out. Like, in bed, like, this was not happening, which is really weird for me. And they would force me. They made me get off birth control, which was fine because I didn't need to be on it. But they would force me to drive myself, because Matt wasn't allowed on base, myself to base to get a shot to get rid of the migraine. They wouldn't give me the medicine or the injection needles because I might use drugs.
Yeah.
They also wouldn't actually test her for anything beyond you're a woman, so this is your hormones.
Wow.
Yeah. So she had an autoimmune disease and it went undiagnosed until she got out. I mean, which is...
And they still... We'll talk about the VA at another time.
So that I think that's so interesting that you chose to put that in here, because I think people see the medical world as, oh, well, they take an oath. They do no harm. They see all people the same, right? Regardless of religion or sexual orientation or color, but they don't. Because they're literally writing textbooks that say, this is the threshold. So that's not equal. That is not equal.
Yep.
Speak on it. I mean, it's perfect the way you say that. And it's why that moment represents such a crisis for them.
Yep.
And how it also kind of is the sunsetting of any hope of them like kind of winning the day.
Yeah.
You know?
And it's also Nora having to throw herself on the mercy of I guess it's not really her stepmom, but that's the best way I could think of to say it. It's
the other mom.
Her throw herself on that mercy, because all she can think about in that moment is, I need to make this better for my sister.
Yep. Mm-hmm. And there was
there's two ways, right? There's urgent and emergent. Yeah. We were beyond urgency. We're in an emergent situation. She needs help now. That was a true, like, sister moment there. Yeah. And that was true.
Yeah.
And then we have another character who also, we haven't talked about him.
No, I was getting to that next.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Good transition.
So, yes. Bear is dealing with a battle that it plagues all natives across our nation, unfortunately. They're fighting to keep what's theirs. Yeah, what little they have left is theirs. He's currently...
sovereignty.
Right. And we're seeing this up north in the Northwest with the natives in Washington and North Dakota and South Dakota, where they're trying to build the pipelines on their very small amounts of land. He's one of very few that are actually trying to prevent this evil thing from happening.
Right.
Like, everyone in his community is just like, get over it. What was that like?
Kind of. Not to like make it like the community didn't care. The organization was absolutely putting the screws to everyone in the community.
They were really running out of options.
Yeah, it wasn't like this. Everyone understood that it was important, but everyone was pressed kind of up against this wall, and that's actually how a lot of like Black farmers, where their land was taken away, like it's not that they're just like, oh, let's just take this money, right? We don't care about generational wealth. That wasn't the situation. No. Like they'd raise the taxes in the area and things. That's exactly how gentrification happens. Yep. It presses you against the wall. So selling is your only option. So that's not to say that the community was somehow didn't understand how important that is. Their backs were against the wall too.
Right.
And so was Bear's, right? And he knew that he was in this kind of privileged position to have this trust to rely on, you know? And that could give him just a couple of more years
freedom
of being keeping afloat, and he could give all that money into this cause, and that will keep them kind of treading water for a few more years.
Right. So 2 more questions.
Wait. Sorry.
Yeah.
Remind me the name of the accountant.
Brandon.
That's the other person that I was thinking of.
I love him.
He has a totally different perspective on everything that's happening. Because his job is not a job that you think of Black men being in either.
Yeah.
Like a lot of what's going on with him, he's like culturally fluid. Yeah. I don't even know if I can say that. Like his best friend is Bear, who's Native American. Yeah. He's doing a job that we don't think, I'm not saying that there are no Black men who are accountants, but like, is that the first job that comes to mind? When I think of an accountant, I think of a white guy with glasses and super nerdy. Like that's what I picture.
Right. And that's exactly like when we think about like our cultural pictures of like who is in these positions, even like a romance heroine. Oftentimes you think of someone who looks like Jolene, flaming locks of auburn hair and ivory skin,
Jolene.
And so it matters to like place these bodies right into these positions. A nervous, straightforward, twitchy CPA who is very, very orderly is a Black man. You know?
Yeah. I love him. He's like one of my favorite characters in the whole book.
I absolutely.
He's understated. If
you decided to do a spinoff of this and just about him, I want to be in his brain. Even if he wrote me like a chapter from his brain.
I have gotten so many comments of just like, please, Brandon and Yan, please.
Yes. Well,
I mean, I would do it just a chapter of like what's going on in his brain because he's so amazing.
Just a bonus chapter online of his like POV of just watching everything.
Of like, but he has so much like distance and
I bet the content in that man's head is hilarious.
Yes,
because he's so quiet on the surface. You know very well he's like, these motherfuckers are so damn stupid.
Yes, he reads Bear for filth. He reads Nora like completely. You know what I mean? He even reads Yan.
He knows.
I kept picturing. Do you know the show Brooklyn Nine-Nine?
Yeah,
9-9.
Okay. To me, Brandon was Captain Holt, but like a younger version.
Holt. Yes.
He was 100% that guy. Like, I just figured he would, like, he just says things that are, like, at an even tone, and it's all straight shooting, and, like, that was all I could picture.
Do you know who I pictured? Do you ever watch The Good Place?
Yes.
Like Chidi.
Oh, yes! Chidi! Oh, that's a good one. Yes.
Just with the glasses.
The anxiety and the little bit of anxiety and the just, you guys don't seem to understand what we're dealing with right here. And why aren't you paying attention? Because this is really important. Yeah. And that just like everything is just a little bit more tense.
Like I could totally see Chidi, but to me, I needed him to like he was bigger to me. Like he was like I don't know. He just seemed like when he's in a room, like I just felt like he was like a big guy. Like his presence, like I could see like little Jan and big Brandon.
But Brandon is a big presence in his personality, I feel like, more than anything else. But he's so understated, and I don't know how to explain that other than that word. Like, understated, and I don't mean it in a negative tone. It's just, he's subtle.
He knows who he is.
He knows who
he is. In a book where a lot of people don't know who they are, Brandon knows who he is.
Brandon knows who he is. He knows what he wants from the beginning.
Yeah.
And like one of my favorite lines that bear, when you were going to ask me what my favorite lines are, they're mostly Brandon's.
Yeah.
When Yan accuses him of just like fighting for the capitalist agenda, he was just like, "You're the capitalist.
Right.
You're the agenda."
He's
and
like,
he was like, "How? Who dare?" You know?
He's like clutching his pearls.
Yeah. Like these moments. Also, when he cajoles Bear into living his life, and he's drunk, and he just starts singing "Return of the Mac."
Yeah. Return of
he just starts screaming that song, and I'm like, he knows Bear needs to get back to,
But we all have that friend, right? Yeah. Who is tired of listening to your shit and doesn't want to hear anything, so they just start singing over you.
Yeah.
I'm that friend.
Yes.
I'm that friend.
Yes.
Don't encourage her.
So I'm so glad we're talking about the characters near the end. Your character art.
Oh, it's so my God.
If you have not seen it, guys, I don't know what the fuck you're doing with your lives. Go look at her Instagram, I believe it's on her Facebook.
It's everywhere.
There. It's everywhere. Just go look at the fucking character art. Who did it? It is so spectacular.
Yes. Cam. His name is Cam, Space Jam Cam. That is not a coincidence. Okay.
I'm writing this down. Space Jam Cam.
He is a native, Black and Native artist. And he is absolutely fantastic.
Yeah. Okay, it was a different person that did this art, though.
Oh no! The person who did the line drawings is still the same. Natalia.
No, I meant, did you have the same artist for Pride and Protest, or was it a different artist?
No. So when we say character art, I was thinking of like the
ones on socials. I'm talking.
Yeah, no, that's what I meant. That's what I meant.
No, different person.
Okay, gotcha.
Different person. I just wanted like an oil painting look, but the person who did line drawings, the Costa Rican artist. Natalia, and she is fantastic.
Yeah,
they're beautiful. Well, it's all beautiful.
The art that's on Instagram, that's your characters. I was blown away. The only one that I was like, that's not how I pictured him, was Brandon. All the other ones, I was like, yes, this is spot on, exactly how I pictured this character. Yeah, exactly. And I mean, you described Jan as like her Lisa Bonet hair, and I'm like, that's exactly how I just. Yeah. I felt like that was who she was the whole time. Like, for me.
Yeah. I mean, Yan is like she's fun. I also wanted to like write this thick character. Like one of the things about like what I find a difference in the way like white writers write like fat women and the way Black writers write fat women is that like sometimes what frustrates me sometimes is the like their weight or their fatness like being in the Olivia Day absolutely doesn't do this. She's a queen for this. Is like their weight like being in the plot. You know what I mean? Or like somehow what it's about when like you don't take for granted that this woman in this body is inherently sexy. You know? That this woman that is in this body,
she's a sexual being,
absolutely fucks, right? You know what I mean?
Right.
And so like that's one of the things that I wanted for Yan, who is this like thick woman, but like her sexuality and her desirability is never.
But it wasn't her personality.
Everybody falls for her instantly.
Yeah.
All the time.
Because that's how she carries herself, right?
She carries herself like she's eminently desirable because she is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And that, since you mentioned Olivia Day, that's the reason that I like her books, because it was the first time that I had seen myself in a book. And spoiler alert, which we read
last season
2 or 3. I don't even remember.
I don't know. I'll look.
It was like 2 or 3. The main character's name is April. She has red hair.
It was weird.
She's big.
I'm not gonna lie.
I had a hard time separating reality from the fiction that she was writing.
Oh, that was so good.
So good. That whole series is like.
I've read all.
Actually, the third book in that series, Shipwrecked, was my favorite of them.
Shipwrecked,
and then she had a plus size male as well. In
yes,
that one.
Yes.
Spoiler alert for season 3.
Season 3, I was right.
Season 3.
So yeah, I mean, I think that we don't you don't see big women as being the sexual beings, but I mean,
My hawk's back. Sorry.
Yeah, it's
You know,
like,
right?
or it's just like sexy in spite of, or
yeah, yes,
hot
yes,
girl takes glasses off. Turns out she's hot.
Right.
exactly.
Yeah,
She's all that.
yeah, exactly.
Right, exactly.
Okay, so last question. All right. Hit us with all the things. Tours, signings, what's going on? Also, what are you writing?
Ooh, I'll answer the what are you writing first. I am currently writing a murder mystery with a detective you may actually recognize from earlier books, with a Ghanaian heroine who's also thick and fine as fuck, and that's not ever in question. You know what I mean? Just
I love a good murder mystery.
Are you
Woman.
telling me this is a spicy murder mystery?
it is a murder mystery that absolutely fucks with a
Oh,
with a
oh
big
my
fine woman,
gosh!
with a big leg one, like in black communities we call them like big. Bring those big legs over here, like just a thick ass woman,
Thicky
Nice.
thick.
thick with two C's.
Yeah.
Just fine unequivocally.
Nice.
Yeah.
So, no,
Tour?
is there a publication date for that one, or that's still in the works?
That's I'm writing it now.
You're writing. Okay.
Yeah. Publication date is, TBD, but yeah.
Okay, because I was going to go on Amazon and pre-order it.
No. It is absolutely happening.
Let us know if you need betas.
Well, hit your girls up when it's ready.
It is the book of
you
my
know
heart.
where to find us, love.
Yes. Socials. I am Nikki Payne Books on Instagram. That's where I feel like I'm the most active.
Yeah.
Nikki Payne Writes on TikTok.
Yes.
Nikki Payne Books
I'll
on
put all those
Twitter.
in the diddly doos,
Yeah.
gang.
And yeah.
So tour?
Tour. I am touring. Okay, so here's where I'll be. This week of the 12th, I'm going to be in so many places. First, I'm going to launch with East City Books.
I love fucking East City Books. They're spectacular.
Tuesday at 7, be there, be square. It's going to be swag. It's going to be gifts. It's going to be great. We're going to have
come. Maybe I'll just come.
Just
Fuck work.
come.
Fuck work.
Because I'm just giving away all kinds of nonsense.
My daughter is still obsessed with the gibbet she gave you. She every time she wears her shoes, she goes, This is that's from an author.
Yeah.
A real author.
I'm giving away all kinds of nonsense. And I'm also going to be at the Bowie Barnes and Noble on February 15th. And then I'm going to be at People's Books in Tacoma on the 17th. And then I'm going to be in Atlanta for Love Y'all Fest. So fun. That weekend of the 17th and 18th. And then I'm back hitting the bricks with Park City Books on the 21st.
Girl.
I know. And then just for funsies, I'm going to be at the Ripped Bodice on the 23rd in Brooklyn. So we're going to have
that's going to be fun.
Oh, it's going to be great.
The Ripped Bodice is like the place I've heard for
it really is.
Romance readers.
Yeah.
Okay, so sorry. Can I ask one more question? Yeah. I know we've gone way over your time. Did you want to talk about the BIPOC challenge from 23 and 23?
Oh, yes.
Since you were one of the authors that was leading that. Yeah.
So last year we challenged folks to read, like, in their enormous TBRs, to take 2023 and find and read 23 books by BIPOC people about BIPOC folks. And that went off really, really well. And we'll probably be launching that again, probably around the same time of the Annapolis Book
Festival. Sign us up. We'll help you.
Yes.
Like a Polycon, we'll probably be launching that again, just to challenge people. And what it does, like more than anything, is it creates some level of understanding. You're even able to kind of look at your own list to say, like, hey, now what gets noticed what gets measured gets kind of understood. And so just having you look at your TBR to say, okay, what does this look like? What am I actually reading?
Right.
And challenging yourself to say, like, what other types of stories could I be interested in? So yeah.
For me, as a children's librarian, like I said, that has been trying to encourage diversity in literature for kids, in all literature, but I'll have Molly put this below, but We Need Diverse Books. That's an organization that is pushing for exactly what their mission is, their name. We Need Diverse Books.
Yeah.
I read a lot of books as a children's librarian, and I prefer to read authentic voice and to see other people coming into my library who were doing 23 and 23 and were asking me for recommendations. You came up a lot. I was like, hey, you need to get this book.
Have you heard of Nikki Payne?
But it was very cool for me to see that. And I live in a very diverse community. This part of Virginia, pretty much every community in this part of Virginia is 50% African American, 50% everything else. So a hodgepodge of all the other ethnicities and races. So we live in a pretty diverse area, but to hear people specifically come in and say, hey, I heard this challenge on TikTok, 23 and 23, and I want an author recommendation. That was really cool. And I do give recommendations to the parents because yes, they're coming in my room, but they also get really comfortable with me and they know that I read things that maybe a children's librarian shouldn't, but, yeah, I mean, so it was really cool. And I felt so proud to be able to say, like, I met her, like, I know her, you know, and, yeah, I thought,
friend.
Yeah. And it's something that I think, I'm not going to speak for all white people, but I think that we don't consciously make the choice to read authors of color. We don't consciously make that choice. And
we grab what we
the publishing industry feeds that, right? They're going to publish more covers with people that are skinny white women. In the children's book industry, there are still more books about trucks than they are of people in general. And predominantly, if there are people in the book, it is predominantly white men. And it's 2024. That's not what the world looks like. That's not what our country looks like. And so I really loved that people were being challenged to read something outside of what you would normally pick up.
I'm gonna one thing that it does is like force intentionality. All it does is just make you aware and bring intention to your reading.
And it's not enough to read a book that has a Black character in it. We are asking you to read authors of color.
About communities of color.
Exactly.
I'm actually going to shout out the Bowie Barnes and Nobles that Nikki's going to be doing her signing at. They have a beautiful African American writers section. It's like the first thing you walk in is right there. I was like, I saw they had your first book up, and I was like, I know her. She's a friend.
I have her autograph in my copy.
I may or may not have stuck Book Besties stickers in the copies that were there.
There's grace for that.
I love it. No, the Bowie Barnes and Noble, it's like, I think it's maybe it has to do with
God, your light hates you.
I know, it really does. I think it maybe has to do with this region, but like, the Bowie Barnes and Noble is very, like, even on the book talk table, it's like, I'm sorry, we're gonna make room. On the book talk table, you know. So absolutely.
I have nothing else. April, you want to tell our besties what we got going next week?
Yeah, so next week we wrap up our month of romance reads with this book, The Wall of Winnipeg and Me by Mariana Zapata.
Spoiler alert, it's too long.
We can talk about that next week, Molly. But it is a massively long book. It's almost 500 pages.
16 hours.
This book was recommended to us by a few people, including our friend Heather from Bookables. And we'll give you our take on it then. And then check our social media for what's coming out in March. I almost said February, but we're in February, duh. I will be absent from the first 2 episodes in March.
The group chat is unsupervised.
The group chat will be unsupervised. And Molly and Nurse Katie will be reading.
I know for sure we're doing Killers of a Certain Age.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'll be absent for those first two, but we will have Chezzy on next month. I'll be back for that episode. I'm very excited. And of course, we are going to be at the Annapolis Book Festival in April. Visit their website. Hey, we had a lot of hits this past month on our website that came directly from Annapolis Book Festival's website. So thank you for clicking on our links and following us. We appreciate that. So
seriously.
Nikki, thank you so much.
Such a pleasure.
Come back anytime. Gosh. You know how to reach us.
If you want to just talk to us about random books, come chat with us.
If there's a book you want us to hit up, tell us. Next season.
Yes.
Yeah.
You are welcome any season. You know
it's so like you are a refreshing conversationalist. Like sometimes we've had guests in the past. I'm not going to name any names.
I will.
I know what I'm talking about. We've had guests in the past where I'm like, I need you to say just something, just something. And it's hard. But you're a great conversationalist, and we kind of hit it off with you right away at the night before Annapolis Book Festival.
Honestly, absolutely.
We hunted you down. We won't lie. We're like, oh, where's Nikki Payne? We gotta find her.
We gotta find her.
You're the coolest people in that room.
Aww.
That's far from true.
Appreciate it.
No,
far from true.
You really were. you saw that room. Okay.
It was it
was a little dusty. Let's use that word. Dusty.
Well, thank you again, Nikki. You are definitely welcome anytime.
Yes, thank you, Nikki. We'll see you.
We'll see you guys next week.
Bye, besties.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us on Book Besties. Don't forget to like and subscribe. The views discussed here are those of April and Molly and not those of anyone else. Today's book was Sex, Lies, and Sensibility by Nikki Payne, who was our special guest. Your Book Besties are Molly Beggs and April Watkins. Editing by Thomas Watkins, and music is Sleep Sweetly by Brigida. Don't forget to follow the Book Besties on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. If you'd like to contact the Book Besties, please email us at bookbestiespod@gmail.com or visit our website, bookbestiespodcast.com. Until next time, besties, get lost in your favorite book.